welcome to another episode of Two Chicks, One Show, where we talk about one currently airing show, an episode a week as it airs. My name is Trisha, and as she's Kate Calabro, we are the Two Chicks, and we are continuing to go through Outlander, Season 1. We are now on Episode 12, Lallybroch.
Yes. So Jamie and Claire finally make it their way to Lallybroch and hopefully are hoping to put their path.
Yep.
But it seems I froze a little bit there, so I don't know.
Yes, you did.
I was like, what was the last thing that you heard?
You started saying the recap.
Okay, well, Jamie and Claire finally make their way back to Lallybroch, and they're hoping for a warm welcome, but they kind of get a lukewarm welcome. And finally we get to meet Jenny, and it's awesome. But that's pretty much it.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot that happened in this episode, but I still enjoyed it because we got to meet some more characters and we got to do a little more character stuff. Yeah, we got a whole new setting. We got to really return to Lallybroch because, we saw it for brief moments in flashbacks in the first couple episodes, but this is the first time we really get to see it. We learned some more about Blackjack's proclivities.
Yeah.
Which will come into play a lot. And we got to meet Jenny, like you said, and I love Jenny in the book, and I like Jenny a lot in the show, too. We were saying this just before the episode started, that this is another one of those episodes where they've taken the source material and they've changed it slightly to fit the format. Mm-hmm. I think Outlander is, a perfect example of how the TV and book mediums are so different that you can't treat the beats of the story the same as you do in the book than you do on TV. Mm-hmm. Because if this episode hadn't had a conflict, it would have been boring.
Yeah. It is still,
Unless you froze again. Yep.
Something like... I keep freezing.
You keep freezing.
When you went from last week's episode, which was so jam-packed, to now kind of an okay episode. It wasn't the best, but,
Yeah, like we said last week, this episode's very much a reset. We're going from this high stress and drama situation with Leary and the witch trial and everything and Gayless and learning all of that to sort of take a moment to breathe and then move to the next thing, because we still have Blackjack to deal with, and he is, as we've been saying, the villain of the story.
And we haven't really seen a lot of him in this second half. So finally, we're going to see more Blackjack, I guess.
Yeah, the first episode of this half season was sort of a step back and reset when we rescue Claire from Fort William and bring her back, and then we, go back into Castle Leoch and then immediately launch into a new heightened sense of drama. And so once that was ended, now, we're back, taking a step back, and then pretty soon we're going to be launched again into the final climax of the series, or the season. But the main conflict here is Jamie and Jenny, and the fact that Jamie hasn't been home in 4 years. The last time he was there was when he was being arrested, when he saw Jenny go off to get taken advantage of by Blackjack, and he doesn't know what happened, but he's been told through rumor that Blackjack raped his sister and impregnated her with a bastard. And who does he see immediately upon entering Lallybroch? Then his new nephew, his 2-year-old nephew, but I think he's actually a little older.
Named Jamie.
Named Jamie, yes. Jenny has named her child, her firstborn, Jamie, after her brother, and he is not so happy about that.
Now, see, this is my question is, he's heard rumors that Jenny had a bastard child, but he didn't hear rumors that Jenny got married.
Right, exactly. He never hears that. My guess is because he heard it from Dougal, that Dougal was just being an asshole.
Yeah, I guess, because I thought that was why would he hear that Jenny had a bastard kid but not hear that Jenny actually got married to one of his best friends?
Yeah, and that's one of the big differences between the book and the TV show, is that when they walk into Lallybroch, Jamie doesn't know anything about what's happened to Jenny in the time since he left. He just knows that she was taken away by Blackjack and he was taken away by the British, and horrible things happened to both of them. When he shows up and he meets this kid and Jenny says, "This is my son, his name is Jamie," he just assumes that it's Blackjack's child. This wasn't something that he had thought about. He just walks in, sees the kid, assumes it's Blackjack's, and then goes off on his sister.
Yeah.
And she plays into it.
Yeah.
She's like, you're being an asshole. I can take care of whatever child I want, and who are you to tell me who to sleep with and who to have bastard children with, and blah, blah, blah. And meanwhile, in the book, Claire's having a conversation with Ian, and she now knows that Jenny is married, and Jamie's the one being an asshole. But in the TV show, that only plays out for a short period of time. Instead, Jamie meets the kid. They yell at each other. He says, whose is this child that you are carrying around? And that's pretty much it until Ian shows up and says, they're mine.
Yeah.
So
Claire's like just standing off in the background.
Yeah, Claire's just standing off in the background, like trying to interject, and Jenny's like, this wench or whatever she calls her.
Like, I heard you married some English woman or something. Like she said, like maybe she calls her Assassinac. I don't know.
Well, the guy who calls her Assassinac is the abusive dad guy later. Yeah. But.
Oh no, she calls her like a trollop.
A trollop, yes, that's what it was. It was a trollop.
It was something weird, but like I know, yeah. Because then Claire goes, "Oh, I'm the trollop he married," to like Ian when.
Yeah, exactly, and that's when, so then, Ian shows up and he says, well, they're mine. And he's like, oh my God, that's awesome, Jamie.
Yeah, and then he hugs him and then it was like, oh, whatever, Jenny.
Yeah, exactly. And, I don't know, it was just, I liked the confrontation. It played out a little bit like it did in the book, but not entirely. So like that all happens, but it plays out a lot longer, and they fight entirely all the way through. In the show, the fight continues for the entire hour over several days. But instead, this one plays out. The one in the book plays out very quickly and ends, and then everybody's happy and jovial and nice to each other. But anyway, so after they've discovered that Jenny has not, in fact, had a bastard child, Jamie sort of demands to know what happened.
Yeah, like they move into I guess their living room or something, and Jamie now wants to know what went down between her and Blackjack. So like it's a kind of an awkward conversation to have in front of your husband, but I'm assuming he knows, as well as your new sister-in-law.
Yeah, exactly. It's a really awkward, and I don't know. If it were me, I don't know how easy it would be to have that conversation, especially in front of people you haven't met. Like, Jenny doesn't just tell her brother, she also tells Claire.
Yeah, she tells the whole room.
Whole room. I mean, I assume Ian already knows what happened.
Yeah.
But what happened when she eventually tells the story is actually what's been going around the internet the last few days, if you've been paying attention. So it's that, my brain is not functioning today. She talks about how she was taken away by Blackjack and into the room or wherever and thrown on the bed, and he is going to have his way with her, but he can't seem to get it up.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And as someone pointed out, we actually see quite a lot of Mr.
Yeah, I was very kind of surprised by what we saw.
Yeah, as was I. I didn't think that they would do that because for the most part, you don't see men genitalia on TV, like you just in sexual situations. When you do see it, like in Game of Thrones and other HBO shows and Starz and Showtime, whatever, you see it, but you don't see it in sexual situations. So in Game of Thrones, you see several people. You see Hodor like run into the screen and then leave, and then it's very bizarre. But this is the first time that I recall, anyway, that we've seen a male character in all of his glory there, so to speak, in a sexual situation. And it's sort of been going around everywhere on Facebook and Twitter and in articles on several different websites about how like that's sort of monumental and interesting. And I don't know that I have very much to say about that. I mean, yay, we're treating them sort of equally, I guess. But I don't know. I don't really have a lot to say about that. I just thought it bore mentioning. And Outlander has been making those kinds of choices over the whole series. In case you're curious why Kate's not talking, she's actually left for a second because we're having some technical problems, so I'm trying to get her back in right now. But like we've mentioned in our first episode, if you go back to the first episode of the first, I think it was the first episode of this show, as well as the first episode of Outlander, we talk about how Outlander made some really bold choices with the way that they present some of their sexual situations. You actually get to see women taking pleasure in sex, which you don't really see that often on television, regardless of what shows you're watching. Which you were able to see on Outlander in the first episodes, and we've been seeing over and over and over on the show. And they also have done some things with like other female pleasure type things, but this is the first time that they've done something with a male character that other shows haven't done. Still having trouble getting Kate back into this chat room. Hold tight. So anyway, once that all happens, Jenny starts to continue to tell this story about how Blackjack couldn't get it up, and she says that she hadn't really had much experience because, like Jamie, like a good Catholic girl, she hadn't had sex with anyone before. So she starts laughing hysterically, apparently, and that it does not go terribly well for her. He is not very happy with being laughed at by a woman. So he strikes her, and then she says to Jamie in the room, that just made me laugh harder. So she continues to laugh at him, and eventually he hits her so hard she hits her head and is knocked unconscious. And that's when Blackjack leaves and she wakes up and he's not there anymore, and Jamie has been taken, and that is sort of the end of the story with Jenny. Nothing actually happened to her. She was assaulted, certainly, but she was not in fact raped because he couldn't manage to do that. Still having some trouble getting Kate back here. I'm sure you all don't want to just hear me talk this entire time. But let's see if we can't get her back in. Leaves and she wakes up and he's not there anymore. Hey, you are listening to this conversation on your computer. And that is... Hey, Kate, you there?
Am I back?
Yeah, but you're frozen again, but I can still hear you.
No,
there you are.
I wasn't moving. That's why I wasn't sure if I was back or not.
Okay, no, you are back. I think this isn't going to auto switch anymore, so I'm going to have to control it. But you're back, yay! I don't have to keep talking about Blackjack's penis by myself. All right.
No, I wanted to talk about Blackjack's penis for a second.
Okay,
because,
so please add to my conversation because I only had so much that I could say without bouncing it off of you.
Yeah, so the thing is, why we really never see men's genitalia, and I learned this actually from Stars' show The Chair. I don't know if anyone watched that. If you show a hard dick, okay, it's automatically an X-rated thing. So you're only allowed to show a soft dick for it to be okay. So that's why you can show as much as you want of the females, downstairs, but you can only show a soft dick.
Well, I guess that's technically, they didn't actually break that rule.
No, because he never was able to get hard for Jenny, which was part of her brilliant laughing idea where it was pissing him off, so she just kept doing it.
Yeah, exactly. And I always loved, that was one of my favorite things when reading the book about Jenny, was that she realized that it was pissing him off that she was laughing, so she laughed more.
Yeah. Like it clearly was still traumatizing and it was still painful because that was not like a genuine laugh, but she was like able to assess the situation and assess that it was really getting him upset. She was able to understand, even though she was a virgin and never saw a penis, that he was still having difficulty. So good job, Jenny.
Exactly. And thus the awkward part of the episode comes to an end.
Yeah, where she room that works for them. Here's this whole time conversation about what happened between her and Blackjack.
Yeah, exactly.
But I guess it's more embarrassing for Blackjack than her, so I guess why wouldn't you tell the story? Like, nothing really happened to, like, I guess she didn't get raped.
No, she did not actually get raped. It was just, she was assaulted, certainly. She was thrown on the bed and smacked and beaten up and all that, but he never actually managed to do anything.
Okay. So,
the power of a laugh.
Yes.
Anyway, so once that conversation ends and it's sufficiently awkward for everyone involved, Jamie and Claire are given the Laird's quarters, and Jamie proceeds to be the Laird of Lallybroch, which goes to his head really fast.
Yeah, like and like you said that you said that he was kind of more of like a showman in the showman asshole, I guess, in the episode versus in the book.
Yeah, he was. In the book, he goes about doing the Laird's duties. He's just the Laird of Lallybroch. He doesn't really, it doesn't go to his head the way that it does in the show, and I was really, really glad of all of the changes that I can recall. And if anyone is a much bigger Outlander book fan than I am, because this part is a little fuzzy for me, maybe you can, rebut that statement. But from what I recall from the book, he just goes about collecting the rents and, being nice to people, but not saying, no, it's fine, you don't have to pay me, to large quantities of people. But he, it doesn't go to his head the way that it does in the show, and I like the way that they did it in the show, of all the changes they've made, because we've been talking about this in almost every episode of this Two Chicks One Show, that Jamie is obnoxiously perfect.
Yes.
And I like that in this episode he has a very serious flaw, which is his hubris. It goes to his head very fast that he has this power, and now I'm going to be the best Laird ever.
Which is like, as it is a flaw, but it's not, I guess it's not a big enough flaw for me, because I just felt like it could be justified where he has been under the thumb of Colum and Dougal for so long that as soon as he gets a little bit of power, he was just like, wah, wah, wah. But like, I don't necessarily see that as like the big Jamie Fraser flaw. Like, there has to be something else. I'm sure there probably isn't, but like, I just want, like, I wasn't like, oh, this is, I'm like, if this is it. Like, he got a little bit too happy at a gathering where everyone was like being, oh, the Laird, like, kiss my ring. Like, of course you're going to get a little bit big-headed at something like that.
I disagree, only because I don't know that that's not what I would do, but I feel like that's not what I would do, just because I think I would be so stressed about being good at this that it would be different. But I do think that it's not like necessarily a big enough flaw. Like, this 2-day issue isn't necessarily a big enough flaw to make up for how perfect he's been this whole time. I think it just points out that he does have them, so that hopefully he'll be kind of a jerk in the future because of something little that happens where he gets a little too full of himself. I liked it because it caused some conflict between him and Jenny, and so between him and Claire, where this time Claire got to be right, because a lot of the conflict they've had so far has been Jamie technically being right.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you. I just think, I think for the character of Jamie, I think it's almost, you can justify his big-headedness in this episode, whereas
you can definitely justify his big-headedness, but you can justify a lot of, like, I don't necessarily need a flaw that's unjustifiable. I mean, it just needs to be something that makes you seem like a human person as opposed to a created character.
Okay. All right. I'll give you that.
Good.
Yeah.
I wanted it. So one of the things that Jamie does is that when he's collecting the rents, he realizes it's been a difficult year and he wants people to like him, and he says, "Don't worry about it."
But if you remember, that's also something that Dougal did when he collected the rents.
Yeah, but Dougal was also he was willing to take less than you owed, but those people also gave him other things to offset what they owed.
Yeah, and he didn't like just like Jamie. Like, all of a sudden, was just like the whole room, everyone gets their money back.
Yeah, exactly. He just didn't collect the rents. Like it wasn't that he was being fair. It was he was being a little too generous. And Jenny makes a point later on that like they will be so much worse off if the household goes under.
Yeah,
because they're not just paying you money to pay you money. They're, you do things for them. It's like taxes.
Yeah.
So that was one of the moments for him that didn't work so well. And then he also intervenes with a child when Jenny had already been trying to work that out.
Mm-hmm.
He just bullheadedly does things where she, like, without considering the fact that his sister has been running the place for 4 years.
Yeah. He kind of like, he shows up, and I think she actually has a line in the episode where she goes, "As soon as you guys walked through the door, you acted like the past 4 years never happened." She's like, everything just doesn't start over as soon as you guys got here. Which is true. Like, she's been doing a successful job running this household, and now all of a sudden, because Jamie's back, everything is, Jamie has all the say in everything.
Yeah, exactly. And that was a fun thing for them to yell at each other about, essentially. But we'll get to that confrontation a little later, because one of the other things that we have, there were two very big flashbacks. We had the flashback as to what really happened between Jenny and Blackjack, and then we also find out what happened between Jamie and Blackjack, and that is the one that comes into play a lot more later on in the story. It's that, and we find out how Jamie's father died.
Yes.
Where Jamie had been taken and flogged the first time, and his father shows up and tries to get him out. And in the meantime, Jamie's being taken to Blackjack, and they sort of have a meeting in the hallway, and his father says, I love you, I'm going to stand by you, blah, blah, blah. Jamie's taken in to Blackjack, and who offers him a choice. He can be flogged a second time, or he can be set free, but he has to submit himself.
Yes. To Blackjack.
To Blackjack, yes. That's where we suddenly realize what Blackjack's preferences are. And it sort of makes sense as to why he couldn't get it up with Jenny.
It also kind of makes sense, and as I watched the episode with my father, and I go...
Of course you did.
I go, well, this makes sense why he always is taking women from behind. And I go, why didn't I ever think of that? And I go, it also makes sense why he's such good friends with the Duke of what's his face?
Of Sandringham, yeah, because he also...
Because they both have the same taste in men. They both have a fondness for Jamie. Clearly.
Oh, but who wouldn't, really? Well, the other and I don't know if did they mention in the TV show that the other reason that Blackjack couldn't get it up with Jenny was that she kicked him?
No. Because in the show, she hits him in the hallway, and then he drags her into the room, but I don't think she kicks him.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure, and again, book people, you can tell me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure in the book she kicks him really hard on the junk, and it makes him not work very much. But it's also because he prefers boys. Yeah. I think he just likes sticking his dick in things, but this is also what makes Blackjack a little more sinister, is that he likes taking advantage of men.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, you've read the books, is he actually, like, he only likes men, or is he just likes the power of being able to control another human being?
It doesn't really get specific in the book about which one he prefers. It
doesn't really, like, I'm not gonna, like, I wouldn't say he's gay. I think he just likes to take advantage of being able to control another human being.
I
Would
wouldn't
that
necessarily
matter?
disagree with you. I definitely agree with you in that sense. They don't get into that. That's not a conversation that happens in the first book anyway.
Yeah.
And I don't know
I
that it
don't
happens.
necessarily think it needs to be a conversation in general, but like everyone just automatically assumed because he wanted to be with Jamie that he's gay, and I don't think that's it. I think it's more of a control thing with him versus an actual sexual desire.
Yeah, and you're probably right. I mean, we've established this character so far as a sadist, as my brain just stopped working again, as a sociopath, and he likes being powerful. He likes inflicting pain, and for a lot of people, that comes from inflicting pain on people who could very easily inflict it on you.
Yeah, and it's also he's inflicted pain on Jamie, and Jamie's taken it, which I think intrigues him. I think Jamie's just a piece to some puzzle that he can't make fit. And he's just so, because Jamie will let him. But then I guess Jamie also can take the pain and that turns Blackjack on. I don't know.
I think it pisses him off, which in turn turns him on.
Yeah.
I think, in as much as I don't necessarily think that this needs to be a conversation about sexuality, I also don't think that he would be very turned on by women just because, or for that matter, by consensual sex.
Yeah.
So I don't in the future, Claire knows, because I mean her husband is a direct descendant. He has to get married and have kids.
Yeah.
But I don't think he would take any pleasure from that.
No. I agree with you.
Which honestly makes him a more terrifying character, because he is just a really scary character.
More scary now than ever. After he was already kind of scary, but then you realize I don't think there's an ounce of goodness in this man. Like before, we wanted to believe how Claire believed that there has to be some. I don't think there's anything.
We're also very far removed from Frank at this point. We haven't seen him in a long, long time. We forget a little bit about him, honestly. Like this face is now very much associated with badness. Yeah. And I think that has a lot to do with what you're supposed to be feeling, I think, the way that Claire does, where maybe part of the reason why she decided to stay with Jamie is because Frank is now kind of tainted.
Yeah, she can't. And I don't know if I would be able to, not associate Frank with Blackjack. They are essentially the same. They look exactly the same. So just like when she first saw Blackjack, she automatically associated with Frank. But now I think the roles might be reversed.
Right. She will probably never feel the same way about her husband, her other husband, that she ever did before. Yeah. So now we know a little more about Blackjack, and that's going to, I mean, we finally see him again for this part of the half season, and he's going to, of course, come back into play because he is, as we've said, the main villain of the season. Yes. So beyond that,
we learned about what happened to Jamie and Jenny's father.
Yes.
Now we always knew that at the flogging, the reason Blackjack stopped is because someone collapsed.
Yes.
Now we know that the person that collapsed actually was Jamie and Jenny's father. We finally realized, we knew Dougal was there, and Jamie always mentioned Dougal was there, but until this moment, he never mentioned that his father was also there.
Yes, and that his father, upon watching this happen to his son and seeing, Blackjack take the whip and it being so horrible and disgusting, and can I never ever watch that again? That
great prosthetics to the Outlander crew.
Yeah, seriously. There's such amazing production to the show.
Yeah.
But he sees all this happening and he doesn't just collapse, he has a heart attack and dies.
Yeah, because it should be, by when that happens, Jamie has officially been knocked out. He's passed out from the pain. So his father believes that Jamie is dead. And then he passes out, and I guess he goes into cardiac arrest would be the medical term, if Claire probably would have realized it. Because, Claire. So that's how their father dies, and each one of Jenny and Jamie kind of both blame themselves for the death of their father.
They do. They both blame themselves, and they and they sort of say that to each other. So we get to this final confrontation. First, there's this whole thing with the mill where Jamie pigheadedly tries to fix the mill, and there comes a British patrol, and they almost catch him, and Jamie's naked, and Jenny sees the scars on his back for the first time.
Mm-hmm. And draws the pain back home that she realizes what Jamie had to go through because of what happened at Lallybroch 4 years ago. So Jamie finally makes the trek up and visits their father's grave. And, he has a moment, and then Jenny comes up, and they have a moment where they kind of, they have a little brother-sister spat that ends with, like, hugs and kisses.
Yeah, and I loved this part of the fight. Now, this fight, the beginning fight and the ending fight, in the book happen together. They're one big fight that just releases all of the tension of the last 4 years. In the show, they play it out over the course of the episode to keep the tension up, to keep there being a tension, a back and forth between the two characters, which works really well for the episode. But as I was saying this to Kate before the show started, but it makes Jenny a little less likable, in the sense that she's really fun and interesting, and she and Claire get along really well in the book. But we haven't seen that yet because Jenny has been butting heads so hard with her brother that she hasn't really let Claire in yet. And that tension has to be released, and hopefully in the next episode, then we'll start seeing some of the more interesting, fun Jenny. But I love this part of the fight in the book, and I love the way they played it in the show when they're basically both mad at each other for trying to help the other.
Yes. It's the typical, it's the typical thing where, I don't want you to do more for me than I do for you. They don't ever want someone to love the other more than they love them. So,
yeah, and they also don't want the other to think that they wouldn't lay down on anything to help them. So, Jamie says, I hated that you were willing to give up your honor for me. And she says, you were willing to give up your life for my honor. Why is my honor not a price to pay for your life?
It's just such a great, it really is a great sibling thing. It's a very great stubborn thing. Clearly, Janie and Jenny have the same mindset, and you can see that. Jenny is almost like a female version of Jamie, but I actually think she's a way more badass than Jamie.
She's so tiny, and I love it.
I know, I just love her. So yeah, it was a great little thing where they were just well, you're an idiot and you're an idiot too, but we'll be idiots together and we'll figure it all out together. So basically they end up agreeing that Jamie will advise Jenny from now on, and he's sorry that he didn't, and now they can move on.
Yeah, and one of the things they say is they've both been blaming themselves for their father's death, and Jamie finally says the only person to blame is Blackjack Randall.
And that's a great person to blame.
Exactly. I mean, he's completely irredeemable anyway, so.
Yeah. If you're going to blame someone for something horrible, it might as well be Blackjack. You already all hate him, so why not?
Exactly. Let's just do it. Just blame everything. Yeah. Let's blame future blights on him. Just everything. Yeah. So this all happens. Claire has a whole conversation with Ian, which was actually fun because I love Ian.
Yeah, we didn't get to really spend a lot of time talking about Ian, but he is probably a delight.
Yeah, I love Ian. I love Ian because he's the perfect foil for Jenny. She's the one that said we're getting married. Yeah. And he's very passive and calm and sort of like a calming anchor for her. Claire and Jamie don't really have that.
No.
They complement each other a bit, but for the most part they've been butting heads. There isn't one of them that's pig-headed and, going for things, and the other one that's calm and centered. So it's really interesting to see this relationship where these two people that are absolutely perfect together.
Yeah. I think what Jamie and Claire have to compromise. They know one has to be right, but even though they think that they're both right, so they end up, whereas Jenny and Ian they're very yin and yang-ish, as corny as that sounds. They're always, he's either supporting her, she's supporting him, and they mellow each other out. But yeah, I don't know if we'll ever see Claire and Jamie quite like that.
Yeah, I don't know that we will either. I mean, for Jenny and Ian, Jenny is sort of the brains of the operation and Ian is the nice guy.
Yeah. It's like
He's the one collecting the rents and talking to the people and helping things, and Jenny's the one making the decisions and figuring things out and being a badass.
Yeah, she really is a badass. And I know you said that in the book she's a little bit more likable, but I liked her the moment that her words came out of her mouth. So
I liked her. Don't get me wrong. I still really like her in the show. She's just more fun more quickly.
Yeah.
In the book.
Like, I mean, I think after seeing how perfect Jamie is, it was nice to see someone actually, besides Dougal, kind of like push him and kind of be like a bully to him.
Yeah, and it was great that it was this tiny girl.
Yeah. Who, like, you should be afraid of. Like, Claire's instantly afraid of her. Jamie's kind of afraid of her. Ian clearly knows not to mess with her. So it was enjoyable to finally watch someone be able to completely overpower Jamie, and she's a tiny person and Jamie's like a giant. And it was very funny.
It was very funny, and it was great. And then finally we get to the final confrontation of the episode where Claire wakes up and Jamie's not there, and he's actually downstairs with weapons pointed at his face.
Yeah. And
bad things are going to happen. Oh, you know what we never talked about?
What?
Drunk Jamie, my favorite part of the whole episode.
It was drunk Jamie who shows up after he's been Mr. All Cool and Mighty, collecting and not collecting the rents, and he comes in and he's like talking to Claire, and we talk about elephants, and he's like, you've actually seen an elephant? Like, it was just like, it was crazy, and then he just like passed out. It was pretty cute.
He has this one moment where he says like something about the, you know, blah blah, the laird of, but I can't remember what the word is, the laird of whatever, and then he pauses for a second and he goes, that's me.
Yeah, that was the best part. He goes, yeah, he comes back and he says, like, I'm the laird, and he goes, in case you didn't know, that's me. Like, to Claire, she goes, yeah, I know.
It was just so much fun to see drunk Jamie, because he was funny. I liked him.
We also need to mention that, granted, we see a lot of Jamie, naked Jamie, but there was no sex in this episode.
There was not.
Waiting for that, you know, typical Claire and Jamie sex scene that has to be thrown in there, and there was not one.
Nice. Good for you, Outlander.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So that pretty much brings us to the end of the episode now. I didn't see the next week thing, did you?
Yeah, I did, but I don't know if I'm, like, I don't know, is it the watch that comes? Like, I was confused about who those dudes were. So I'm a
little confused too, because I honestly can't remember. It plays out very differently from what I recall in the book. And then it plays out later, and it's very obvious.
Yeah, like, I was able to, like, I watched the coming attraction for this coming week, but I don't know how I would even describe it, because I don't know if they're deserters, or if they're the watch, or if they're people, I don't know. Everybody wants Jamie, but like, to kill him, not like, ooh, Jamie, but like to like chop off his head and like deliver it to Blackjack.
Basically. Yeah, so bad things are a-coming, basically.
Yeah.
We have 4 episodes left.
Yes.
And quite a lot of book left to happen. Next week is also, I believe, Jenny goes into labor week.
Yes.
So Claire gets to deliver a baby.
Is concerned.
Yes. And it is, timing wise, it is the right place for it to happen. So yeah, Claire gets to help with that.
I figured Claire would be the midwife.
Naturally. I mean, I can't imagine why she wouldn't be. So that there's a lot to look forward to, and a lot more interesting stuff, and we're going to get to learn more about Blackjack eventually, and we get more Jenny. I think we get a little more Jenny than I was expecting, which will be fun.
Yeah.
Woo.
I want like a whole Jenny and Ian spin-off, if that could happen.
I want Jenny and Ian to have a web series.
Yeah, like lollying around at Lallybroch.
There you go, exactly that. All right, so I think we're going to wrap things up. Good episode, not a great episode, but mostly because it didn't have as much action as the previous ones.
Yeah.
But overall, good, and we got some Jenny, which I know Kate's been waiting for all season long.
Yeah, Jenny!
So that's it for us.
We got non-hard penis.
And we got a non-hard penis. And I got to talk about it awkwardly for about 4 minutes while
I put on the YouTube channel trying to get back in, and you did try to talk about that for a long time.
I tried to just talk about one thing while I was trying to get you back in, but I didn't think it would take more than 30 seconds. But it did, so welcome to Awkwardness with me. All right, so that's going to do it for us here at Two Chicks, One Show. We will be back next week. Outlander airs Saturdays, 9 o'clock on Stars. This show airs every Wednesday, usually, at 6 p.m. on this channel. That's YouTube / All Geeks to Me TV. You can chat with us in the comment section here on YouTube, on the website, allgeekstome.net, on Facebook, on Twitter, at Trisha Ennis, at Kate Calabro, at All Geek to Me Net is the website, and hashtag Two Chicks One Show. We totally read this stuff and really like your comments. So we look forward to hearing from you, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.